How do you decide which features to build next? Let's say you've already published your MVP. You've got something running, you even have some customers, and now it's time to start thinking about the next features. The next features that will turn your lean MVP into the full-on, full product that you had in mind when you first built it. But what now? What is the next feature to build? How do you decide which would move the needle the best? Because when you are a startup, not having a lot of funds, not having a lot of resources, you have to make sure that each action you do is actually a needle-moving action, is something that you could reap the benefit of. Otherwise, you're wasting time and money and resources, and that can actually be detrimental to your business because you might run out of resources without hitting the KPIs you're looking for. So you want to make sure that the features you're building are actually features that your customers want, that will move your product forward, etc. And in this video, I'm going to give you a 4-steps method on how to figure this out, how to decide what is the next feature to build. And it's very similar to our method of how to find good SaaS ideas. So if you want to check us out, you can, we'll link it up here. But generally speaking, it's a similar method with maybe a little bit different of evaluation here. But before we jump into that, you have to first get familiar with the comparison table. The comparison table is what helps you collect all the data and decide what feature to build. So you can see here the comparison table that we have created, and this is a sample of the same comparison table we use. This is actually a screenshot of a real one we used about a year ago to prioritize features. And the reason this was done a year ago was because since then a lot of things have moved forward, a lot of things have changed, but generally speaking these are still the features we're working on. We just put them on our yearly roadmap and are actually working on these things according to the different ratings. So the first thing you want to do is think about all the features that you need to build. Think about all of your features and put them in this table. It could be features you planned for from the beginning, it could be things that customers are asking for, but just make sure to fill it in. And now we're gonna go one by one and give rating to all of these features according to the valuation criteria. And the valuation criteria is the following stuff. First of all is complexity. Complexity is very important. It should take into account how difficult it is to develop this feature and also how long it would take and how many developers would need to work on that. Because there's a huge difference between easy to release features that take a week or two to develop and bigger, more complex stuff that could take a month or even two to really complete and launch. If you're looking to put out updates quickly, you're gonna wanna intertwine the two and release some of these quick features alongside working on some of the longer term ones. So in this part of the table, you will give a rate of 0 to 10 depending on how complex it is, 0 being least amount of complex and 10 being the most complex it could possibly be. The next metric is value, and for value we actually have 4 types, as you can also see in the table. It's not just one single thing, there are a lot of different places where your product could be valuable. So the first one would be value to the customer. Are your customers wanting this feature? Is this something that's gonna help them make more money with your app, see better results with your app? Is this going to make the app more comfortable for them to use? This is all value for the customer. This is directly saying I am improving and increasing the value that my product gives to my customers. This is always a top priority type of feature because you want to always improve your product and your customer's experience. So it is important, but it's not the end all be all. The next type of value is marketing value. And this is more for you than it is for the customer. Let's say you're creating an integration. An integration would be a great marketing value kind of feature because you are integrating with another product, meaning you can tap into their customer base. Marketing value could also be anything that opens you up to new markets, new types of customers, anything that can help you get more customers in through the door, help you with customer acquisition. Now, can something be both marketing value and user value? Of course it can. And ideally, you want something that has a higher rank in each one of these value columns. So for each one of them, I haven't mentioned before, put a rate of 0 to 10. Again, 0 being the least amount valuable, 10 being the most valuable possible for this specific category. Moving on to the third value type is monetization potential, monetization value. So that basically means, can this feature help me charge more for my customers? This is very important. It's also important to know that if right now you're working on monetization, maybe you want to release a feature that helps you monetize better. Maybe this feature will allow you to create new paid plans, or maybe this feature is something that increases the value enough that it increases the usage base that your users pay. It depends on your payment strategy, it depends on a lot of variables, but this is anything anything that you think could be something that users would be willing to pay more for. Also, a great thing to consider when you are planning your product roadmap, you need to kind of put a little bit of everything in there. And lastly, we have product value, which is the value for you as the product owner / product manager. And this is a little more abstract. I don't have a specific set of criteria to look for here, but it's anything that is not marketing value per se, and it's not monetization value exactly, but you feel like it would give you value in the sense that it would place your product in a stronger position. It would make you more stable. Your product would be more stable. Let's say you're having crash issues with the servers crashing, and this is something that can kind of put a stop to that. That's very important. It could be something that helps with retention, that you think would make the product more sticky and get people to stay with you more. There's a wide variety here, so just give it a score again of 0 to 10. What is the product value here? What is this adding to the product? The third criteria after value is customer requests, and this is the last criteria that you will manually add in, and that is how many customers are actually asking for this. Now, when you're just starting out, the numbers are not going to be high, but as you have more customers, this is going to be a very important column to look at, because the more customers you have, the easier it is to figure out what do they actually want, what are they missing. You can see in my example, we use Hello Next, which is a great tool to collect customer feedback and requests, and we actually allow customers to upvote for features that they want or request new features that maybe don't appear over there. But even better, and this is where most of our requests come from, we allow our customer support team to actually upvote for features on behalf of the customer or create new feature requests on behalf of the customer. That means that if a customer asks for support for a specific feature, they can say, oh, this is something we're considering adding, do you want me to upvote it on your behalf? And then they can, and once we release the feature, everyone who upvoted for this feature will get an email letting them know that it is now available. So that's really cool and great, but you don't have to use Hello Next or any other paid tool. You can just use a Google Sheets or Notion sheet to collect these requests. That's something that we actually used to do, and it worked fine, but we decided to upgrade to something that has a little more automation behind it and also looks better to the customers. So it's up to you. The important thing is ask your customers what they're missing, log down any customer request for a new feature that doesn't currently exist so you can add it in here. And again, put on a number of 0 to 10. It doesn't need to be the amount of requests that you have. Generally speaking, when you compare it to other features, is this a 10 with how many people requested it, or is this a 0 because like one person requested it or 0 people? So once you have all of this, the next step is to calculate the final score of the feature. And this is why we have the sum column. And in this column, you're basically gonna add all of the numbers, the rates that you just gave the feature, but subtract the complexity because this is a negative number. So you would add on everything else, subtract complexity, and that is your final score. Amazing! Now, you will be surprised sometimes by the final scores because sometimes your intuition will tell you, I think this feature is the right one to develop, and then you do the final score and you say, oh wait, it's like somewhere in the middle or even at the bottom. So it's not something that it's worth working on right now. And it's going to be very interesting for us. The first time we did that, we realized there were some things that are really simple for us to do. They had a really low complexity score that people kept asking for, and we just kind of ignored because by our intuition, it wasn't a core feature of the app. So this is really going to help you align better with your customers and understand what they actually want and build features according to that. Now, the rating is great, but the goal is to use this information to make a decision and not just let the information make the decision for you. Keep that in mind. The rating you see doesn't mean this is the end all be all, I have to develop it, this is it. If you look in the example that I provided, I actually did it with checkout extensions. This is a feature we're working on right now, and hopefully by the time this video comes out, the feature will as well. We'll see. But the reason that we're working on it, even though it didn't get the highest score, is because there are a lot of other factors that affect it. So for example, checkout extensions, Shopify just released some APIs that allow us to develop for this section of the store. This is actually core feature for Reconvert for the type of features that we do, the type of work we do with the app. So it makes sense for us to develop it. And since this is a new feature released by Shopify, it has a lot of buzz around it, and there's a really good reason to develop for that as fast as possible because all of our competitors are doing it and we don't want to be left behind. We want to be in the lead of the curve. So all of this is just to say the numbers are really important to help you see more clearly, but the final decision is yours and you need to take everything into consideration. This is how you decide what the next features are to develop. If you want to watch our video talking about how to build an MVP and how to decide what's going to be part of the MVP, you can go ahead and watch it here. And if you want to, this is what what YouTube thinks you should watch. Thank you for watching.